Alright, I'm Winston Pais, and my project was, does phone usage affect cervical bone alignment? So the problem here that we faced was after the release of the iPhone, neck injuries around the world saw a significant rise, and our purpose for this experiment was to determine if prolonged phone usage negatively affected health. So a way to measure this was to see if the subjects had, if they spent more time on their phone, if their cervical bone alignment was different or worse compared to those who, spent less time on their phone. Our hypothesis was if phone usage is increased, then the angle at which the neck rests will also be increased, so the cervical bone alignment will be worse. The variables that we used in this experiment were phone usage and age for our independent variables, and the neck angle for the dependent variable. Our controls were, we used a meter stick to distance the photo from the person, and we had an iPhone 6s camera, a silhouette maker app, and the angle meter application, as well as the time period between when the photos were taken and the data was collected. The materials we used were the iPhone 6s camera, a meter stick, silhouette maker application, and the angle meter application, as well as Google Forms and a consent waiver for the participants. So our procedure was we handed out the permission forms and informed consent forms for the participants to agree to so that we could use their personal data and share it anonymously. So we then took pictures of the neck angle from exactly 1 meter away from the participant using an iPhone 6s camera. We then collected the data for the average daily use of screen time from each participant's iPhone for the last week. We then turned the pictures to silhouettes using the Silhouette Maker application, and then we repeated the previous steps once a week for 3 weeks to obtain accurate data. We then sent out a survey to collect information regarding the participants. We then measured the neck angle of participants with a degree measuring application, and we created a data table and line graph for the data we observed. Here are some example silhouettes that we have. And here is one of our line graphs actually. As you can see here, there are a couple outliers. These are the adults, and this is due to something that we'll talk about later. But as you can see from the general trend line that appears here, is as the daily screen time goes up, the average neck angle also increases as well. So here we have a look at how the age aspect of it affected the average neck angle. And as you can see here, the neck angle average for 14 to 17-year-olds is significantly higher at 20.66 degrees compared to 8.37 degrees seen in the 31 to 45-year-old age group. So age versus daily screen time. The 14 to 17-year-olds saw about 6.25 hours of daily screen time, whereas the 31 to 45 degree age group, or 31 to 45 years old age group, saw about 2.08 hours per day. So here is our data table. We have our collection over the weeks and the statistics that we use to create these graphs. Our conclusion is that as the trend line for phone usage increased, the amount of inclination for the cervical bones increased as well. So we saw an average increase of about 17.6 degrees with an average daily phone usage of 4 hours and 56 minutes. The data ranged from 22 minutes daily with a 4-degree neck angle at the minimum to 8 hours and 38 minutes daily with a 27.25 degree neck angle. There was a discrepancy seen between the two age groups. The older participants were significantly closer to normal with their neck angle compared to the younger age group, even when they had similar time spent on their phone daily. So our application and discussion. With the findings from our experiment, we can be pretty assured that the time spent on our iPhone is negatively affecting our physical health for both youth and adults. And according to the data, youth seem to be significantly more susceptible to the adverse effects caused by phone usage. And we think that this is likely due to the fact that youths were exposed to iPhones at a younger age when their bone formation isn't complete and it's still developing, and this causes their bones to be aligned in an improper fashion, which leads to the bad neck angle, whereas adults already have fully developed and formed bones. So the practical application for this research would to just heed the research that has been seen, and if we can find out what specifically is causing the neck angle to deteriorate, then we can form preventative measures and educate youth in how to properly use their iPhones. So our future plan is if we were to continue working on this experiment, we would like to observe a larger data set with a larger variety of people and age groups to fully accept our hypothesis. We would then like to try different approaches to see if the neck angle could decrease through therapy or some form of reducing the amount of daily time spent on their iPhone. We want to see if we could get their average neck angle back to normal or closer to it. Overall, the next step is to just find a way to reverse the negative effects of phone usage. Here are the sources that we used, and as well as a link for some of the pictures that we used. And that's all.